Who are these people?
Land of the free, and you'll know us by the trail of dead. Just one more world war to complete the set. Live by the pike, die by the pith, die wide-eyed, still pleading the fifth or divine epithets in pathetic attempts at defense. All empathetic for those on your side of the fence. I'll gladly put you and your legacy into an alternate tense, faltering senses and altered events. Hun, it ain't a hearse, it's a reaper stretch. How sweet, she said. Bunch of hordes in the street like it's evil dead, where the thin blue line meets razor's edge, where the corporate ladder ascends to a steel-toed boot that awaits on the ledge. You'll be licking it fresh at your boss's request till it stomps each finger and watches you fall to your death and drown in an ocean of debt. Gone with the fodder, gathered to honor the patient left, who purity tested themselves into sections, step by step, till the next election, when it's just one them and the sound of their well-read theorized breath. Harm reduction for the lowly cost of you holding your nose and just openly buying the theft. Roll credits. Maybe it's all in the flick of the pen. Maybe we're all one unmarked van from a trip to the pen, guarded by pigs who exist on a diet of dying breaths from much worthier men. Honey, heaven's expecting you. Just don't get too hung up on who they let in. Just look at the shine of the pearly gates. You don't need to worry if there's lead in the paint. You don't need to worry if there's lead in the water, lead in the milk, lead in the honey, lead in the caustic embrace of the heavenly Father. Lead is the flavor of passive perpetual slaughter. Lead is the taste of us led to the ledge by the lure of the legend of expert consensus, then beckon to stretch it just one step farther. I hope that the folks who were boastfully gloating and toasting themselves as the heroes of COVID for boosting their boosters and doing their part are now equally thrilled to be martyrs, starstruck, laid in a government grave with anonymous markers. Back from the carvers and off to the splicer. The very first wave to be slain in the 100 years war against Pfizer. They are thinning the crowd that is striking right now to bleed adequate pay from the inhuman misers who sit in their office and designate coffins to people regarded as nothing but profits for Kaiser. Yet the Dems want you nicer. Dems want you softer. Dems want you kinder. The Dems want you graciously starving in silence. You speak when you're spoken to. Rest of the time, you and all of us peasants are merely depressing statistics neglected in Congress's binders. Bled bone dry, then fed to the grinder. Headstones line each step as reminders. A lesson in object permanence learned in the furnace by workers consigned to the fire. Bled bone dry, then fed by the fed to the grinder. That's buying the theft.
Who are these people?
Fresh off the mass is the brand new cancerous growth. Come here to vie for your vote. Come here to cry at the camps and to mourn at the shore for the bodies that float by the wreck of an immigrant boat. Then it's back to their luxury home, couple security booths and a moat. Couple cigars, little escargot, little booze and a soak, breathe in the steam and the smoke. Pink salt, lavender, candles are low. When you do what you do, gotta lighten the load. Got a life of his own, it's a sight to behold, it's a lot to control. To decipher the code or to siphon the soul. See, the cost of a good night's sleep for the working elite is a bargain, no matter the toll. Worth any wager, and that comes straight from the mouth of the means to the goal. That swallows us whole. Ripe for the picking if you don't mind mold, and you know I don't. Maybe we're pleasantly prone, maybe we're taking a licking, compliantly ticking and ticking and ticking, but never explode. Now I don't deliver the prettiest image, but damn if it isn't an accurate vision, a natural fission of rage at the system, an abject heartbreak patiently waiting for any who will listen. That little blue bird who is watching your words is a federal carrier pigeon, a Langley first. It's a patient observer who hears what it wants and is trained for the worst. Oh, you got nothing to hide? Well, they'll be the ones to decide that after they root through your purse, after they read all your texts, after they raid your apartment, confiscate all of its contents, and conjure up evidence out of the air on a wing and a prayer and malicious intelligence nonsense. Any presumption of innocence gone right along with our comforts and constants. Now, historically, first they will come for the communists. So why in the fuck do I say I'm a communist? Well, it might be I love my community more than the monsters of opulence holding us hostage and vomiting promises. It might be I'm all done seeing our pensions and benefits harvested. Might be I'm all done watching the populace being disarmed in the guise of an armistice. Watching a woman collapse on the floor who will rise no more. She is wheeled out the door and you're next in line for the pharmacist. If you can get me to vote, it's a hard no confidence. Part of the charm of deception is politics wearing the mask of incompetence. It's all in the art of austerity, darling. It's all in the sleight of the providence. Till home is as wide as your cubicle height, and it's only as deep as your coffin is. Maybe I'm miles away from impatience and aching to break off the head of the snake where its capital lust and its reptile brain and its margin of profit is. Now off with his swish, drop of the guillotine, clean chop, pop goes the artery, arc across the treetops. Higher than the budget funding army gear for street cops. Workers of the world, hitchery stops. That's Depop Culture.
Who are these people?
This is called Yes You. Love, I only wanna help you, so I won't lie to protect you. All those same people that defend you would beat you bloody if your rent's due. Yes, you. Love, I only wanna help you, so I won't lie to protect you. All those same people that defend you would beat you bloody if your rent's due. I guess you didn't hear. Maybe all our signs weren't clear. Maybe someone went to tell you and got disappeared. So keep your voice down, cause our phones have ears. And I'll act surprised when you spout what I've told you for years. Upstream against a steady flow of smears. For being just another fringe theorist. Well, those conspiracies will hit a little closer to your home after Cuomo shields the home where you housed mommy dearest. Shit, negligence is par for their care, and they're not gonna be there for their court appearance. Cause they've been granted carte blanche and a full clearance. Immunity from scrutiny and legal repercussions when they knowingly infect your parents. And knowing what I know now, I can't say it's fair, but I can say it's pretty damn American. So love, I only wanna help you, so I won't lie to protect you. But all those same people that defend you would beat you bloody if your rent's due. Yes, you. Love, I only wanna help you, so I won't lie to protect you. All those same people that defend you would beat you bloody if your rent's due. Yes, you, yes, you, yes, you, yes, you, yes, you. Yes, you. Yes, you. Yes, you. You could find yourself the target of the ruling class, the oligarchs, the CEOs, plutocrats. You could be that dude beneath the overpass, face down, sucking on a canister of chlorine gas, while seated on your back is a faceless white fascist in a mask, who's taking orders cause he's just a clueless ass. Can't think for himself, but he relishes the task. We groom young men to be that. An army of kids who were told not to cry by emotionally walled off dads. You'll find no better candidates to bludgeon with abandonment and gas. Press medics, women, children, old veterans, or anyone that threatens the establishment. Then their bloodlust wears off, the Kevlar tears off. They look at their reflection and they're shifted to imbalances. Fuck, we do a damn good job of tuning men to war's ravages. But once we finally break them, we don't have a plan to save them, so they end up in a tent camp, living with the rest of the collateral damages. And they'll never get the glory or the honor of our wasted sons and daughters lining Arlington like rows of fucking cabbages. This is how you normalize sacrifice. This is how you weaponize a nationalist. This is how you teach a man to break his spine just to fix your bottom line or polish up your averages. See, all those stones in Arlington are seeds that were sown by the capitalists. Now, love, I only want to help you, so I won't lie to protect you. All those same people that defend you would beat you bloody if your ends do, yes you.
I like that one.
Who are these people?
Yeah, this was the Young Turks piece. This is called Fractions. Calling every foe synthetic leftist and progressive lover. Summoning the simps of all the squad adjacent, opportunist, two-faced copsuckers. Paging every Democratic yes man in possession of a smoother brain than those who hide behind the Biden stutter. Welcome to the super edgy independent news that you can trust when we say we don't sell our standards out like all the others. Trust us when we tell you that we're looking out for working class America, holding all the powerful accountable. Trust us when we tell you that a host of vital truths are being covered, when honestly the truth is being smothered by a couple disingenuous hacks sent to act in bad faith by Big Brother, and start smearing every journalist who bears the credibility they covet from their gilded fucking neoliberal centerpiece. Air out all their jealousy and spite like it might yield them some validity, or paint a coat of pity over all of their acidity. But they've been busy cozied up to every war pig living between here and the infinity. Albright, Biden, Obama, God, that's gotta take the trophy for unholiest of trinities. Well, I hope you didn't come to witness anything resembling integrity. That's been long abandoned. Now we see integrity as often as Atlantis. Now they only toe the line and read what they've been handed. It's safe to say if Cenk sunk any lower, he'd be deeper than the Marianas. TYT will tell you how opinions aren't the facts unless they're Cenk Uranus. Since they chose to make a living out of licking boots and shilling, you can bet they make a killing. TYT is proud to say they traded all their spines away to empty out the till and tell themselves it's decent work and it's an honest tilling. Me, I see they found a way to rape the willing. Me, I read between the lines, and in the script I see the signs that those who fund their message down to every filthy dime would gladly bleed a human sea if it prevents a drop of oil spilling. Yet somehow they portray themselves the heart of the progressive movement. The loudest voices calling for some unity with those who built careers around destroying unions. Which might be true, since unity is something truly useless and symbolic like a stale communion. As tasteless as the times they tried to fight back smiles smearing Julian. And I hope Cenk and Anna listen up and listen well. You'll never be a fraction of the journalist Assange has been, even from his cell. All the filth you spread around, you spread it on yourself. That's my time. Fuck you twice. See you both in hell. And that's Fractions.
Damn, I wish you had a mic that you could actually freaking drop there, because that kind of calls for it. See, I love making him laugh, but I don't want to make him laugh while he's smoking.
I'll get a spare one. I have a piece of shit mic that's not really any good anymore.
Right, we can just like get something to pop. I just want to hear that. And then be like, I want to hear that sound of the bop. You know, like it's just got a. That sound has got, I don't know, some kind of relief or some kind of something to it.
Oh man.
Yes.
Who are these people?
Definitely hook this up. This is jessejett.bandcamp.com. Okay, again, this is Union Drip off of the Co-op, which was released just today for anybody who just tuned in. The Co-op just came out last night, brand new. Go here and you can download it for free. You can hook my man up and enjoy. So here we go, Union Drip.
I came to be a prophet, but I'll settle for pariah. We filled the air with DDT and called the wind Mariah. We cheer on every victory in the war against Goliath, and we watched the model Christian Smalls and pose him with Zendaya. They are gonna milk that Union Drip until the very last simp takes the very last sip, and when it's all wrung dry and it's not worth shit, then they'll leave it laying right where it is. You can watch them let it all drip into the ditch. Here's the sitch. Biden will invoke the witch of January 6 as a quick fix. He'll tell you that she's here to fill your bellies with some twigs and sticks, rocks, berries, and a capital brick. Concurrently, he's finger-wagging all of the Republicans while sucking their proverbial dicks. He'll fluff them up a couple of concessions in the flick of a bick. He just needs lights and a camera and prompter, and someone to monitor the prompter who knows their shit. 'Cause Joe's gonna open the show with a few short words to be chanted by old white folks wearing old white cloaks who will march in a circle around some progressive political star who is purely a place to spit. But it's all good fun, and there's no harm done when the banks yell cut and they're calling it quits. It's all Flint water gone under the bridge, out of sight, out of mind, and dissolved in the mist. Joe will only need a flick of the wrist, and then the throat of your movement is slit. It'll sputter and gurgle and choke for a bit, bleed out in a viral clip. And as the last of its life force flows to the floor, he'll say, "That's my idea of a union drip." You see, the eyes are a glimpse of the soul, so it says a whole lot if they aren't exposed, and your message is branding you stamped on your clothes, and the media storm is wherever you go. Then you go meet Joe, and you laugh at his quips, and you shake his hand with a nice firm grip, and you cry good trouble through the loafers on your lips. Too true, that's a union drip. Who knew that the victory gift for your unionization's a DNC script? And it's nice and precise like a sniper who's trying to cripple us right where we live. The target they lead is your wallet. They seek to dismember your hands so you can't feed your family or pick up your kids. While they flatter themselves into orgasm, feigning respect for our unions, who wired our grids, who welded our ships, who died for our rights to not witness our children conscripted to 12-hour shifts in the mines from the time that they're 5, when they know damn well that the unions had thrived till they shattered their hips. Till they showed up and handed out Pinkerton slips. Now it's as simple as status and symbol and making the star of the movement so bright that the movement itself is eclipsed. Now our mouths grow dusty and dry on the promise of union drips that might trickle down out of a wealthy fist that is squeezing the heart of the working class hard as it can till it finally ruptures and splits, punctures a valve, and it laughs at the sound of the squish. The way that they laugh at the sight of us making a wage slave wish to a man on the cover of Vanity Fair saying, "Eat the rich." So this is for those who rely on commissions or toil for tips, watching their bosses drink bottles of profits while all you get offered are jugs of their piss. If you seek out the soul of the movement or proof that the movement exists, try looking in the eyes of Chris. And when you find that you can't, the answer is as simple as this. The movement is never one single face, and a drip is a leak to repair or replace. We will not eat the rich to suit expensive taste. We'll consume 'cause survival's at stake.
That one just kills me.
Who are these people?
Hold the phone. The end's not abrupt like an overdose. It's a year in slow motion sort of like an overdose. Sort of like you're comatose, watching out of body while they blow the donors, close the polls, and say they've saved the nation's soul safely from the comfort of their mega yachts, which look a lot like someone took a motorboat and bred it with a summer home. It floats at peace somewhere alone, somewhere beyond the dogs and drones and all the noxious, toxic smoke that's in our lungs and blood and bones. This island earth, this thunderdome, the undertow and our undertones. Have gun, will travel, sack Damascus, take half of their oil, then have to roll. Come back tomorrow for the rest to go. We got an axe to grind, got a grid to roam, got a world to police on behalf of the half of the 1% who craft raw consent that you won't own a home in a paid op-ed. Well, I've been slogging through the trough of bots and paid ops and obvious fresh feds. Lobbyists break bread with the salt of the earth, coming to you live from the hall of the undead. Constituents unfed. The policies promised were unsaid come sunset. Unacknowledged and impoverished drudges who trudge the underground led around solely by the gaslight that is brighter to our bleary eyes than halos made of tungsten, tighter than the knot that your tongue's in. Welcome to this country's final form and its soulless sole function. Bet you hopped a dozen homeless folks to catch your brunchin'. You can keep your private clubs, I'll wield a public truncheon. Crack a house of skulls that only represent corruption. Puppets made of shit and greed that all our taxes barely feed, and all your checks cannot compete with that sweet education budget. They'll lay the dynamite and detonate at early light, and all we are from that day on is a silent movie firefight, a cold war by the fireside, vanities all burning bright. Sort of like a mosh pit on a starless night, sort of like a molten curse I wrote in words of diorite. Sort of like a spoken verse I hoped would serve to spark the surge and instigate the type of purge that burns their perch and plays their dirge and shepherds our oppressors to the dirt from whence they came. Every word I've written is a version of my name, an extension of the purpose I am taking to my grave. I'll be silent as the earth is with democracy's remains while you're all marching on the surface for the hope of Roe v. Wade. Trying to push your leaders back to where they'd always stayed, and wondering what made them change their minds November 8th. Deciding that it's just a couple dinos playing fake, so next time we can vote them out and things will be okay. Try kneeling with an open mouth, the boots might go away. Like every politician, whether left or right or center's not some flea-infested predator just playing with their prey. Loving every moment that we're struggling to keep going, but then once we finally die, the thrill of hunting's not the same. So they're off to greener pastures, where they're after tougher game, and there's no attempt at husbandry, the meat all goes to waste. They don't come to fill their stomachs just to fill a trophy case. They don't really like the way the peasants taste. Besides, they're full of plastic anymore, it's hardly safe. Better off to eat their raises on a bed of interns poached and braised. Too drunk to hear the crying of the ghosts of slaves, fossil record frozen wage, Rosencrantz and Gilded Age, existential pressure plates, a presidential motorcade, followed by your owners forcing you and yours to procreate. And then the donors press reset, the villains alternate, and go the way of Lieberman, who skipped out like a stowaway. Now 9/11 was a holy day for brokers of the War Brigade and hawks atop the stock exchange. It's economic growing pains for working class with taxes paid, but past the gates the scent pervades of record-breaking profit gains. You'll huff it drooling till it dwindles down and off it fades. And God, it smells like it was worth its weight in office space. It's just a glimpse of how our jealousy indoctrinates, how Elon's smug and mocking face exemplifies our rodent race. It shouldn't take a lottery to keep your place. You shouldn't need a miracle for groceries. You shouldn't have to ration out your insulin as someone's greed necessitates. That's not how it's supposed to be. These ancient fucks aren't sacred saints, they're mafioso potentates who don't deserve devotion or the mercy born of pity's grace. The single-handed scavengers of life from every cityscape who wave the old inflation wand like here's your cost of living raise. And on command, these drips that form the righteous democratic wave are crashing loud, their voices proud, to gush and moan their praise. God bless the lesser evil that has numbered all our days.
Who are these people?
We're the ones who donate so you can win the race, then turn around and make a cash grab. And yet we turn around and thank you for the backstab. We only had to change the names on Trump-era hashtags to hashtag Biden lied, people died, hashtag Biden built the wall, and hashtag Biden is a fascist. That one's gonna get a workout this summer. Every gas attack, every time they come and cattle you and rush you in a charging armored mass attack. And the last thought that you'll have before your head hits the ground, splits, shatters, and then bounces back is how much they deducted for that body armor just before they gave your measly taxes back. This is war, and that's a fact. This is more than Biden gets to fix by saying riot bad, white terror good, and sending you away with a little bit of placid satisfaction thinking that was that. But that was far from that. That was far from making 500,000th of a fraction of a surface scratch. That was only muddying the waters of your scrying pools, grind a little gravel on your looking glass. so that when all the truth is bare, it is but an empty air and 1,000-yard stare with which we're looking past. And all it took for me was one classic Biden speech to know there's nothing I won't put him past. Be it jacking up your insulin, or caging every immigrant, or threatening the victims of his sex offense and smearing them to try and get his footing back. Biden is a war crime veteran who dropped the bomb on better men, and all for only Lockheed Martin's benefit. So please don't try to paint his bitter bigotry as something tame, like he was just a grumpy grandpa bitching for his pudding back. Unity and solidarity to Joe Biden means a meeting where the hoods are black. Which, if it's representative of anything, it's just the executioner who lives to swing the axe and never once has thought of looking back. And some need never fear the axe, who still possess a hope chest with the wood intact. The same who swear they'd never march with all those nasty fascists, but they would in fact. The same who say they'd never cheer a journalist who's being tortured for exposing war crimes each of us should deem important, but they would in fact. The same who say they wouldn't call the cops on every unassuming black teenager they see walking down their block, but they would in fact. Biden said he wouldn't, so you voted when you shouldn't, 'cause he would in fact.
Who are these people?
American Heritage. Here we go. Let's get moving.
Lights raise on a table of senators inking a sale of arms, slipping in footnotes, funding incentives to put those crops in the garbage and pay the farms. And in bursts a mother with babe in arms, who can't pay rent or a grocery bill with her faith or charm, and they tell her, save your charms, save the sob story for those who can help you. Our hands are tied to these puppet strings, lifting our arms. This is the crop that we reap when we vote on the promise of peaceful sleep and a reduction of harm. These are the promises gone into hiding when Biden decides to walk back a reduction of arms. And we are the people left shouting on mute because we dared to sound the alarm. We tried decrying a crisis of homelessness, hundreds of people who used to be homeowners buying the farm. Biden was too busy patting us all on the back over shots in arms. We are the cattle they'll pull out to pasture or lock in the barn, burn to collect the insurance, and then they'll just carry on. We can be sheep or be carry on. We can be meek or be clarion, haunting the ground we were buried on. We make the sound of the great beyond, echoing back to the chamber where all of those tireless senators stayed till dawn, drafting provisions improving the living conditions of only constituents riding this crisis out down in their summer house sipping on Avion. I follow a man named Jatavion. He got pulled over and he made it home, but he knew it was almost the day that we don't want to come, but we all know will come and we're all sort of waiting on. The day that they snuff out your flame and explain they mistakenly thought that the safety was on. Half asleep and half mass hysteria. And back at the table, the senators label the final draft Project Valerian, with the subtle approach of a botched cesarean. Dressed in the suits that their hideous final forms were born in and will likely be buried in. Close your eyes. Eat your news. Chew your Valerian. 2024, you'll be voting for either the Kamala bot or an outright Aryan. And they'll warn you democracy's up in the air again. But how many men will we see by then with an officer knelt on their neck while they're gasping for air again? And the pig on their back is some dog of the state whose purpose is just to attack, and he knows that fact, and it makes him invincibly arrogant. And as rabid as all of the fascists you train in your barracks and garrisons. Timeless indeed, like the Christian need to dehumanize those that they view as beneath them. That's the same old song that we sang to the Saracen. And you were today years old when you learned that for all of this time, we were the actual terrorists. We were the source of those flawlessly crafted, disparaging narratives. And we have sent presidents here and abroad into absolute power or off to meet God to arrange all these corporate marriages. I was mistaken to call it tradition. This is American heritage. This is the land where they lighten your language, pick apart all your paragraphs, gut every lyric of leverage. Smaller than all of those flecks of valerian they sent adrift in your beverage. Each word I write that tries shedding some light on the pig they portray as a presidential paragon. Every word I write regarding Biden, he whose sable arms, blacker than the purpose of the warships in the naval yard, orchestrate our fate to try to sate the thirst of Raytheon. Blacker than the water that we used to flood Iraq and then trickled into Libya so Hillary could open up a nice global slave bazaar that we'll return to sack and then pat ourselves all on the back because we liberated Libya. The slaves are gone. But what we didn't know until today was that all of those slaves that we saved are really on a plane and they're halfway to Gitmo. We interrupt this story due to Kamala arriving in her limo with her Timbs on, and that's all your need to know info. This is a historic day, and you can say you saw it with the last of all your energy because you were busy starving, staring at the roast that the senators were carving to celebrate a bill that faced no opposition in Congress, to cut back your heat and your lights at a time when the nights are their longest. And if you don't know the tune that they're singing by name after the grave, the Saracen can tell you what the song is. And they'll tell you that it's loudest where the smell of the valerian is strongest, where they turn around and make an arms deal after promising an armistice, where the workers get the wall and the scab solves stoppages. Take it up with Congress and their fortified offices, blocked by riot cops who'd love to stand on your esophagus because that's what they've been training for and told equates to competence. You brought it on yourself by refusing your valerian. You brought it on yourself when you hesitated giving us your child for experiments. You brought it on yourself by denying your family exposure to all our new variants. You brought it on yourselves. It's American heritage.
Who are these people?
Yeah, this is Permafrost.
Rip it.
All right. Joe's appointees have cut their teeth, teaching other thieves the proper ways and means to come and eat your lunch. How to circumvent the law and reach right through your window to the dinner table, pilfering your Easter brunch. A little east of Eden, south of heaven now for each of us, where the 99% of us are made to be the least of us. And it's only normal because it's what our system teaches us. Ugly fucking Christmas, dismal Christmas Eve, some hideous statistics if you're brave enough to read, how many million families are without a thing to eat, and there'll only be a blurb on the TV. Right before the NYSE record profit Wall Street circle jerk right into our stockings as a Christmas treat. Just before you overdraft so you can get a Christmas tree. See you miss 2 weeks on the job because you don't get the same quick testing that the rich receive. Your livelihood and that of all your families isn't worth half as much as a birthday jamboree for these fucking dog shit A-list celebrities. And you know what? I hope they live it up, because in the next couple months, we won't see them for their wealth. We'll just see a source of calories. Now talk about your raw, unscripted, unsalted reality. Talk about a household name upon your table like a centerpiece. Talk about you reckoning your overwhelming hunger with your beckoning morality. And then let's have a talk about duality. How to keep your sanity and forage for your neighbors and the remnants of your family. And why you shouldn't grieve when you feast on your leaders, because all of them are felons who will never see a sentence for a felony. That's reserved for you and me and the extended peasantry. Because for every felon sentenced, there's a senator with all the same offenses who will never see a cell, yet they sell you on the speech about how they are not your enemy. And if they go to trial, they might have to spend a while in the kind of place that puts all your vacation spots to shame with their amenities. Somewhere in the twisted human structure of the capitalist centipede, we're the segment living on the excrement of those who eat the excrement of those who dine on Perignon and caviar, but couldn't guess the retail price of a candy bar, and who play with the lives of the poor like an endless sea of avatars, pulling all the filthiest of strings in the purest garb, some of whom I'm sure are being vetted by the Biden team for title of insurance czar. When I say all of Biden's cabinet are fascists, you say, yeah, Jesse, sure they are. Then you go and roll your eyes like you heard it all. Tell me how it means that I'm a Trump supporter, honey. I done heard it all. It don't hurt at all. I'm unnerved, but I'm vertical. Answered the call because I heard the call and all it was burn it all. It was simple enough that I only heard it once, but I learned it all. Learned to sew, made a Biden voodoo doll, burned the doll, brought the doll to life just to watch it crawl, swept up the ash, made a batch of cookies, fell asleep and burned them all. Take me to your fash, honey. I can try to turn them all or turn them into sterno if they were to shut the furnace off. Winter heard us cough and urges us beyond the permafrost. Twitter purges us, and CNN will have us on so they can turn us off. They don't try to hide it, they just turn us off. They don't even hide it, they just turn us off. They won't even hide it, they just turn us off. They don't have to hide it, they just... And that's Permafrost.
Who are these people?
So, like I said, I was a Grinch purist. The original special when I was a kid was one of my favorites. I never got my hands on the actual book until a couple months ago, and there is just a few discrepancies and little departures. Also, early Seuss, so the color palette is just like black, white, red, pink. That's it. But yeah, so in the interest of YouTube censorship, this is just for fun. Sure, aren't making any money doing this.
We're on Rumble and Rockfin anyway, so that's all right.
There you go. So fuck you, YouTube. I never liked you anyway.
Fuck you, YouTube.
You killed my friends, YouTube. You killed my friends.
They literally killed Slow News Day's channel this week, so fuck you, YouTube.
Yep. Okay. Here we go, fam. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot. But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be, perhaps, that his shoes were too tight. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve hating the Whos, staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown at the warm lighted windows below in their town. For he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now hanging a mistletoe wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas. It's practically here. Then he growled with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming, I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming. For tomorrow, he knew, all the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early. They'd rush for their toys. And then, oh, the noise, noise. That's one thing he hated, the noise. Then the Whos, young and old, would sit down to a feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast. They would feast on Who pudding and rare Who roast beast, which was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. And then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand, and those Whos would start singing. They'd sing, and they'd sing, and they'd sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I've put up with it now. I must stop this Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea. An awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do, the Grinch laughed in his throat, and he made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. And he chuckled and clucked, what a great Grinchy trick. With this coat and this hat, I look just like Saint Nick. All I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around, but since reindeer are scarce, there was none to be found. Did that stop the old Grinch? No, the Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he called his dog Max. Then he took some red thread and he tied a big horn on the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh and he hitched up old Max. Then the Grinch said, "Get up!" And the sleigh started down toward the homes where the Who's lay a snooze in their town. All their windows were dark. Quiet snow filled the air. All the Who's were all dreaming sweet dreams without care. When he came to the first little house on the square. "This is stop number 1, the old Grinchy Claus hissed, and he climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch, but if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once, for a moment or two. Then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue, where the little Who stockings all hung in a row. "These stockings," he grinned, "are the first thing to go." Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant around the whole room, and he took every present. Pop guns and bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn, and plums, and he stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags, one by one, up the chimney. Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beast. He cleaned out that icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that Grinch even took their last can of Who hash. Hey, Stro. Come here. Sorry, cat Stro. Hey, boo. Come on. Come on, we're reading. Come on. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. "And now," grinned the Grinch, "I will stuff up the tree." And the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove when he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove. Not that. He turned around fast and he saw a small Who. Little Cindy Lou who was no more than 2. The Grinch had been caught by this tiny Who daughter who'd got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and said, "Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why?" But you know, that old Grinch was so smart and so slick, he thought up a lie and he thought it up quick. "Why, my little sweet tot," the fake Santa Claus lied, "there's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, then I'll bring it back here." And his fib fooled the child. Then he patted her head, and he got her a drink, and he sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then the last thing he took was the log for their fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. On their walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire. And the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for the other Who's mouses. It was 1/4 dawn. All the Who's still abed, all the Who's still a snooze when he packed up his sled, packed it up with their presents, the ribbons, the wrappings, the tags, and the tinsel, the trimmings, the trappings. 3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. "Pooh-pooh to the Who's," he was Grinchishly humming. "They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two. Then the Who's down in Whoville will all cry, boo-hoo. That's a noise," grinned the Grinch, "that I simply must hear." So he paused, and the Grinch put his hand to his ear. And he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, then it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so, but it was merry, very. He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing, without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with the load through the bright morning light. And he brought back the toys and the food for the feast. And he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beast. Nice little wick of air on the mic with that. So my son and I last year, my wife works at the hospital and she ended up having to work Christmas. So I picked up a lemon pepper pork tenderloin and did it in the oven with some applesauce. And he was like, "What are you making?" I was like, "Rare Who roast beast." And he loved it. And so that's lo and behold, that's what we're doing again this year because he was asking for it. In fact, I made one Thanksgiving too because he was like, it's already getting cold out. Can we watch the Grinch? And I was
Aw.
like, fuck yeah, we can watch the Grinch. And so then I had to it's any excuse for a lemon pepper tenderloin. So
My son, he likes say Cindy Lou Who with the little lisp. It's like the cutest thing ever.
Who are these people?
It's forever
What
before we actually
opens-
get to a song. Yeah.
what opens this song and why I wanted to use this for the opener, there is a podcast by the name of Polyrical, and the guy that does it does exhaustive research into just fantastic political music, people I'd never heard of, and known artists too, but just there's so much out there, so much political music that I wasn't aware of, and he's been gracious enough to feature my music in several episodes. And there was one where I was kind of the featured artist, and he played through several tracks. And he ended up reading a quote from a line in American tradition. And when I was listening to it and heard him read the quote, it felt like I was listening to some kind of like career retrospective. Like it was way more of a humbling experience than I felt like I deserved this soon into things, and really hit me that like this guy understands this type of music really well and sees what I'm trying to do and like totally gets me. And he was actually the person that talked about Utah Phillips enough to make me look into him, and Utah Phillips has been enlightening for me, to say the least, a tremendous inspiration to me in the last few months. So I opened this record up with a sample from the episode where he was featuring my music. He had talked about my stuff for a while, and then he kind of started talking about the movement at large. And then he circled back to me, and it was when I kind of realized that he was talking about my stuff that whole time too, that I started bawling, because it was just the most I know, most I felt like I was fucking getting my flowers, like someone really gets it. And there have been some times when I'm kind of in need of a reminder about what I've managed to accomplish so far, and a little push to keep going, that I've listened back to that episode, and I'm not ashamed to admit it, that it's just that like that dopamine hit kind of locked away for emergencies. And so I sampled a line of his in that, and I figured the best way I have to thank him for everything he's had to say about my music was to put him front and center for this new record. So the first track, Apple Model 3 Slave Caller, opens with a quote from Polyrical.
Nice. All right, here we go.
Our society and our world are full of these invented and built up and contrived facades. And sometimes some people come along with a hammer and smash that facade. It's a brilliant, powerful hammer. It's a brilliant, powerful hammer to smash that facade. It's a brilliant, powerful hammer to smash that facade.
Welcome to the future. Shit where you please. The Wi-Fi's killer, but there's no more bees. So there's hardly any flowers, there are very few trees, and you'll pay $1,000 for some honey for your tea. But we got these awesome collars, mine's an Apple Model 3. It allows for better movement than the Tesla X Elite. It lets you customize the ads that it implants in every dream. And for premium subscribers, doesn't shock you in your sleep. But it doesn't stop there. It can analyze your speech, and if it hears disinformation, then it notifies police. It's a swift re-education, but it knocks you off your feet like your booster every 7th week. I faced the future boldly with 2 eager open eyes, and I picked a couple nuggets up that blew my fucking mind. Like you can taxidermy someone while they're technically alive, and they'll shine when it's election time. See, the Democratic voter base will pay them zero. Never mind if voting for the scarecrow is a vote along their party lines. They could stare into its marble eyes and claim there's something dignified. Unlike real politicians, this one doesn't need an oxygen or kit supply. But its function is the same as those who came before. The goals are never misaligned. It still spends all its working time performing pre-recorded fleecing sessions where it sugarcoats your slow and hungry genocide, while pouring billions into Nazi coffers, all the while selling you the story that we're moments till the MiGs arrive. So fuck it, ask Zelensky if he'll help replace our leaded pipes. Watch a fleet of Penske's show, stacks of bills in every size. Guess it only took a black sun and a couple hiles. Honorary goose step and some Nazi boots a quarter mile, all while Biden sneers his sordid smile. I don't know what was in this morning's vial, but it makes him stare 1,000 yards through all the prompters and the cards like he can smell the nearest child. His eyes are wide and wild, wider than the grave in which another 1,000 families were tossed in as I typed until they rose up to the sky unceremoniously piled. Which sort of flies right in the face of all this network ticker tape where the American economy has superhuman vitals.
And sometimes some people come along with a hammer.
See, I like to think my trial's gonna play like a recital. I'll denounce the world around me and accuse the most entitled, who weaponize their titles, whose pull is something title, who'd starve us all to death to best delight their blighted idol. So they might destroy the record, and I will never get to vinyl. So my word is not immortal, but it's final.
It's a brilliant, powerful hammer. It's a brilliant, powerful hammer to smash that facade.
Who are these people?
This is one that I had talked to you about a couple times, that I'd wanted to have a piece that kind of talked about going back and forth if you like do any kinds of activism, and the things you learn obviously stay with you, and no matter how invested you are, I'm sure anyone gets those periods from time to time where you kind of weigh stepping away from it, at least as much as you can. And maybe for me, it's kind of cathartic to pretend that I could and tell myself that it's even like a possibility, because I'm sure if I tried to stop making this music and writing like this, I'd be able to do it for maybe a couple months, but then I wouldn't be able to suppress that. But this specifically was about weighing, like, I struggle with how soon do I start really telling my son the hard truths. I don't want to let him just be kind of propagandized outright early, because it starts early. But I don't want to make him too radical too soon, so things are too difficult for him. And then really, how better off am I for what I know? So this song was kind of the culmination of that. Just all those thoughts. And so musically, it really covers the emotional, romantic, the angry. There's just a lot going on in this song. So it felt like a really good place to end the record. So yeah, this is Blocking the Line.
Oh, you son of a bitch. Oh, you son of a bitch. I'm reading this already and you're freaking killing me. I haven't even started yet. God damn it.
I warned you about this one, bro. I really did.
Yes. Well, in all fairness, you did say it was going to kill me, and that you were going to wreck me to walk out, and that's what we're going to end up doing. That's awesome. Reese here.
You're totally right, Reef. Yeah, no, that shit's propaganda. I'm not in this house.
we just propaganda, definitely. It's propaganda. So yeah, let's get to this, and then
let's do it.
Tomorrow night we're gonna have INN News with JB. They just finished recording that, putting that
nice.
So we'll have that. So let's get this done and
let's do it.
When you are not with where majority of Americans are, then that is extreme. That is an extreme way of thinking.
Set you free, but I really want to let you be. And a part of me wished I could set myself aside, just let you take the ride, just chalk the rest up to destiny. I could let you believe that the only restraints in life are the size of your dreams. Let you believe each kid grows up with the world at their feet. When I know too well it's open season, I know they're taking stock and raising stocks and raising stock. And I'm simply not here to sit and watch as you learn the lesson all cogs are taught. Keep your head down and keep to task and just keep on blocking the rest of it all out. Just keep on with the rest of the herd of a million adjacent oblivious workers. The forest unseen for the trees, and the trees unseen for the fallout. Now what's more damning, baby, the truth or the ignorance? Fuck it, I honestly wonder if I see the answer so well. Baby, believe me well, I know it's scary, I scare myself. If I could find a way out of my head, I would run like hell. I would ditch this body politic, mindless occupant somewhere far from the dismal abyss. In the tranquil crystalline bliss of the beach, I could rest with the rest of the shells. And if anyone asks, I'm anywhere else. If I'm really needed, just light the candle, then read the book, and then ring the bell. Oh, my untarnished heart, my little perfect soul, this world will melt your mercy down so they can sell its gold. This world will take your worth and then demand 1,000-fold. It's full of greedy pigs who'll eat you out of house and home. They'll strip your bank account and sweep you somewhere down the road, and then return to eat your tent and shitty bike you rode. Your bottled water, only shoes and coat and broken phone. Then smiling in your face, they'll tell you that the shelter's closed.
When you are not with where majority of Americans are, then, you know, that is extreme. That is an extreme way of thinking.
Hoped you would never find out, knew that you had to know. Pulling what's left of my mind out, trying to tell you so. I tried to block the light out, knew you could feel its glow. I've been here holding my hands out, trying to keep you close. Trying to keep you
Oh, my untarnished heart, my little perfect soul, this world will melt your mercy down so they can sell its gold. This world will take your worth, then demand 1,000-fold. I tried to block the light just so I could keep you close.
Who are these people?
So, without further ado, it's the motherfucking Sneetches.
Yay. Except now I can't play this for my kids. Thanks.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, cut. Without further ado, it's the Sneetches by Dr. Seuss. We have fun here. Now, the star belly Sneetches had bellies with stars. The plain belly Sneetches had none upon theirs. Those stars weren't so big, they were really so small, you might think such a thing wouldn't matter at all. But because they had stars, all the star belly Sneetches would brag, we're the best kind of Sneetch on the beaches. With their snoots in the air, they would sniff and they'd snort, we'll have nothing to do with the plain belly sort. And whenever they met some, when they were out walking, they'd hike right on past them without even talking. When the star belly children went out to play ball, could a plain belly get in the game? Not at all. You only could play if your bellies had stars, and the plain belly children had none upon theirs. When the star belly Sneetches had Frankfurter roasts, or picnics, or parties, or marshmallow toasts, they never invited the plain belly Sneetches. They left them out cold in the dark of the beaches. They kept them away, never let them come near, and that's how they treated them year after year. It really is. It's the Blue Checks. It's the Tale of the Blue Checks by Dr. Seuss. Then, one day, it seems, while the plain belly Sneetches were moping and doping alone on the beaches, just sitting there wishing their bellies had stars, a stranger zipped up in the strangest of cars. My friends, he announced in a voice clear and keen, my name is Sylvester McMonkey McBean, and I've heard of your troubles. I've heard you're unhappy, but I can fix that. I'm the fix-it-up chappie. I've come here to help you. I have what you need, and my prices are low, and I work at great speed, and my work is 100% guaranteed.
Wait a minute. His name's Elon. Come on, dude.
Yeah. Sylvester Miss McMuskie McBean. Then quickly, Sylvester McMonkey McBean put together a very peculiar machine, and he said, "You want stars like a starbelly Sneetch? My friends, you can have them for $3 each. Just pay me your money and hop right aboard." So they clambered inside. Then the big machine roared, and it clonked, and it bonked, and it jerked, and it burked, and it bopped them about, but the thing really worked. When the plain belly Sneetches popped out, they had stars. They actually did. They had stars upon theirs. Then they yelled at the ones who had stars at the start. "We're exactly like you. You can't tell us apart. We're all just the same now, you snooty old smarties, and now we can go to your Frankfurter parties." "Good grief," groaned the ones who had stars at the start. I'm sorry, at the first. God bless it. "We're still the best Sneetches, and they are the worst. But now how in the world will we know," they all frowned, "if which kind is what, or the other way round?" Hey, Anthony. Then up came McBean with a very sly wink, and he said, "Things are not quite as bad as you think. So you don't know who's who. That is perfectly true. But come with me, friends. Do you know what I'll do? I'll make you again the best Sneetches on beaches, and all it will cost you is $10 eaches." "Belly stars are no longer in style," said McBean. "What you need is a trip through my star-off machine. This wondrous This wondrous contraption will take off your stars so you won't look like Sneetches who have them on theirs." And that handy machine, working very precisely, removed all the stars from their tummies quite nicely. Then, with snoots in the air, they paraded about, and they opened their beaks, and they let out a shout. "We know who is who, now there isn't a doubt. The best kind of Sneetches are Sneetches without." Then, of course, those with stars all got frightfully mad. To be wearing a star now was frightfully bad. Then, of course, old Sylvester McMonkey McBean invited them into his star-off machine. Then, of course, from then on, as you probably guess, things really got into a horrible mess.
Let me guess, $8 for a blue check.
Right? All the rest of that day, on those wild, screaming beaches, the fix-it-up chappie kept fixing up Sneetches. Off again, on again, in again, out again. Through the machine they raced round and about again, changing their stars every minute or two. They kept paying money, they kept running through, until neither the plane nor the starbellies knew whether this one was that one, or that one was this one, or which one was what one, or what one was who. Then, when every last cent of their money was spent, the fix-it-up chappie packed up and he went. And he laughed as he drove in his car up the beach. They never will learn. No, you can't teach a Sneetch. But McBean was quite wrong. I'm quite happy to say that the Sneetches got really quite smart on that day. The day they decided that Sneetches are Sneetches, and no kind of Sneetch is the best on the beaches. That day, all the Sneetches forgot about stars, and whether they had one or not upon theirs. And that's the Sneetches.
Who are these people?
Here we go.
All right, everybody.
I had trouble in getting to Sollew, or life comes at you fast. I was real happy and carefree and young, and I lived in a place called the Valley of Vung, and nothing, not anything, ever went wrong. Until, well, one day I was walking along, and I guess I got careless. I guess I got gawking at daisies and not looking where I was walking. And that's how it started. Sock! What a shock! I stubbed my big toe on a very hard rock, and I flew through the air, and I went for a sail, and I sprained the main bone in the tip of my tail. Now, I never had ever had troubles before, so I said to myself, I don't want any more. If I watch out for rocks with my eyes straight ahead, I'll keep out of trouble forever, I said. But watching ahead, well, it just didn't work. I was watching those rocks, then I felt a hard jerk, and a very fresh, green-headed Quilligan quail sneaked up from in back and went after my tail. And I learned there are troubles of more than one kind. Some come from ahead, and some come from behind. So I said to myself, now I'll just have to start to be twice as careful and be twice as smart. I'll watch out for trouble in front and back sections by aiming my eyeballs in different directions. I found this to be quite a difficult stunt, but now I was safe both in back and in front. Then new troubles came from above and below, a scritch at my neck and a skrink at my toe, and now I was really in trouble, you know. The rocks and the quail and the scritch and the skrink. I had so many troubles, I just couldn't think. There I was, all completely surrounded by trouble, when a chap rumbled up in a one-wheeler wobble. "Young fella," he said, "what has happened to you has happened to me and to other folks too. So I'll tell you what I have decided to do. I'm off to the city of Sollew on the banks of the beautiful river Wahoo, where they never have troubles, or at least very few. It's not very far, and my camel is strong. He'll get us there fast, so hop on, come along." Well, I jumped up behind him. Then all through that day, the wobble wobbed on in a wobblesome way. The road got more bumpy, more rocky, more tricky. By midnight, I tell you, my stomach felt icky. And so I said, "Mister, please, when do we get to that wonderful town? Aren't we almost there yet?" "Young fella," he told me, "don't start in to stew. At sunrise, we'll arrive in Sollew, and you'll have no more troubles. I promise, I do." But when dawn finally came, and the darkness got light, that wonderful city was nowhere in sight. Instead of the city, we ran into trouble. Our camel got sick, and he started to bubble. We had to pull him in the one-wheeler wobble. So there we were, in a dreadful position. Our camel sure needed a camel physician. Now, doctors for camels are not often seen, especially on mountains. They're far, far between. But we pulled that old wobble and set out to find some doctor while dragging our camel behind. I pulled and pulled. Then the next thing I knew, I was pulling the camel and that wobble chap too. Now really, I thought, this is rather unfair. But he said, "Don't you stew, I am doing my share. This is called teamwork. I furnish the brains, you furnish the muscles, the aches and the pains. I'll pick the best roads, tell you just where to go, and we'll find a good doctor more quickly, you know." Then he sat and he worked with his brain and his tongue, and he bossed me around just because I was young. He told me go left, then he told me go right, and that's what he told me all day and all night. Well, next morning, we located Dr. Sam Snell, who knew all about tonsils and camels as well. Our camel, he said, had a bad case of gleeks and should lie flat in bed for at least 20 weeks. I was tired. How I wanted to crawl in that bed, but the wobble chap sent me away and he said, "Your troubles are practically all at an end. Just run down that hill and around the next bend, and you'll come to the Happy Way bus route, my friend. The Happy Way bus leaves at 4:42 and will take you directly to Sollew, on the banks of the beautiful river Wahoo, where they never have troubles, or at least very few." Well, the bus stop was there, and that part was just fine, but tacked on a stick was a very small sign saying, "Notice to passengers using our line. We are sorry to say that our driver Butch Myers ran over 4 nails and has punctured all tires. So until further notice, the 442 cannot possibly take you to Sollew. But I wish you a most pleasant journey by feet. Signed, Bus Line President Horace P. Sweet." So I went on by feet, thanks to Horace P. Sweet, and that Horace P. Sweet almost ruined my feet. Well, 100 miles later, my feet were so sore. Then, wouldn't you know it, it started to pour. I was drenched to the skin when a chap in a slicker splashed up and he yelled, "It's the midwinter jicker! The midwinter jicker came early this year, and it's not going to be very comfy round here. Any fool would get out, so I've packed up my things, and I'm off to my granddaddy's out in Palm Springs. Take cover," he yelled. "Use my house if you wish. Then the chap in the slicker splashed off like a fish. Played by Walter Brennan, for those who hadn't noticed. That was Walter Brennan's cameo.
That's great.
Oh, God. Well, I ran in the house, and I fell in a heap. I needed my rest, but I just couldn't sleep. Did you ever sleep when your feet were like ice? With a family of owls and a family of mice, I listened all night to the howls and the yowls and the chattering teeth of those mice and those owls, while the midwinter jicker howled horrible howls. I tossed and I flipped and I flopped and I flepped. It was 5:15 when I finally slept. Then I dreamed I was sleeping on billowy billows of soft silk and satin marshmallow stuffed pillows. I dreamed I was sleeping in Sollew on the banks of the beautiful river Wahoo, where they never have troubles, at least very few. Then I woke up, and it just wasn't true. I was crashing downhill in a flubulous flood with suds in my eyes and my mouth full of mud and my nose full of water, my ears full of shrieks of the owls flying off with the mice on their beaks. And I said to myself, now I really don't see why troubles like this have to happen to me. Well, I floated 12 days without toothpaste or soap. I practically almost had given up hope when someone up high shouted, "Here, catch the rope!" Then I knew that my troubles had come to an end, and I climbed up the rope, calling, "Thank you, my friend." I got to the top, but it wasn't a friend, and I saw that my troubles were not at an end. A big man on a horse scared me out of my wits, and he bellowed, "I'm General Genghis Khan Schmitz. There's a war going on, and it's time that you knew. Every lad in this land has his duty to do. We're marching to battle. We need you, my boy. We're about to attack. We're about to destroy the perilous Poozer of Pamplemousse Pass. So get into line. You're a private, first class." Well, he gave me a shooter and one little bean, which was not very much, if you see what I mean. Then he yelled, "Get that Poozer! Attack without fear! The glorious moment of victory is near!" And the glorious general led the advance with a glorious swish of his sword and his lance and a glorious clank of his tin-plated pants. Then we went round a corner and found that, alas, there was more than one Poozer in Pamplemousse Pass, and Genghis Khan Schmitz shouted out to his men, "This happens in war every now and again. Sometimes you are winners, sometimes you are losers. We never can win against so many Poozers. And so I suggest that it's time to retreat." And the army raced off on its tin-plated feet. Well, there I was, with more Poozers than I'd ever seen. There I was, with my shooter and only one bean. There I was, and I thought, will I ever get through to the wonderful city of Sollew on the banks of the beautiful river Wahoo, where they never have troubles, at least very few. Well, I had terrible trouble in staying alive. Then I saw an old pipe that said, "Vent number 5. I didn't have time to find out what that meant, but the vent had a hole, and the hole's where I went. Well, that vent where I went was a sort of a funnel that led me down into a frightful black tunnel. The traffic down there was a mess, I must say, with billions of birds going all the wrong way. They bumped me with bikes, and they banged me with dishes. I ran into ladders, beds, bottles, and fishes. I skidded on garbage. I fell in a horn. Troubles. I wished I had never been born. I was down there 3 days in that bird-filled-up place. At least 8,000 times I fell smack on my face. I injured 3 fingers, both thumbs, and both lips, my shin bone, my backbone, my wishbone, and hips. What's more, I was starved. I had nothing to eat. And damp. Was it damp? I grew moss on my feet. Then, just when I thought I could stand it no more, by chance, I discovered a tiny trapdoor. I popped my head out. The great sky was sky blue, and I knew from the flowers I'd finally come through to the banks of the beautiful river Wahoo, and I couldn't be far now from Sollew. There it was, with its glittering towers in the air. I had made it. I'd done it. At last I was there, and I knew that I'd left all my troubles behind when a chap at a doorway that shimmered and shined waved me a wave that was friendly and kind. This, I can't do my voice here because I'd get canceled. It's culturally insensitive. But he used to say, "Welcome." "Welcome," he said, as he gave me his hand. "Welcome, my son, to this beautiful land. Welcome to sweet, sunny Sollew, where we never have troubles, at least very few. As a matter of fact, we have only just one little trouble. Imagine, my son, this one little trouble, as you will now see, is this one little trouble I have with this key. There is only one door into Sollew, and we have a key-slapping slippered. We do. That troublesome slippered moved into my door 2 weeks ago Tuesday at 3:45. Since then, I can't open this door anymore. And I can't kill the slippered. It's very bad luck to kill any slippered, and that's why we're stuck, and why no one gets in, and the town's gone to pot. It's a terrible state of affairs, is it not? And so, said the doorman of Sollew, my job at the door here is finished. I'm through. And I'll tell you what I have decided to do. I'm leaving, he said, leaving Sollew, on the banks of the beautiful river Wahoo, where we never have troubles, at least very few, and I'm off to the city of Boolaboo on the banks of the beautiful river Woo Wall, where they never have troubles, no troubles at all. Come on along with me, he said as he ran, and you'll never have any more troubles, young man. I'd have no more troubles. That's what the man said. So I started to go, but I didn't. Instead, I did some quick thinking inside of my head. Then I started back home to the valley of Vung. I know I'll have troubles. I'll maybe get stung. I'll always have troubles. I'll maybe get bit by that green-headed quail on the place where I sit. But I've bought a big bat. I'm all ready, you see. Now my troubles are going to have troubles with me. The moral here is that sometimes violence is the only answer. When someone sets up fake roadblocks for your happiness, get a bat.
Who are these people?
I liked it better being blind when I couldn't read between the lines. Couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. And I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. Thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. Both bleed us so dry.
My favorite songs don't hit the same way, 'cause I get to the end of a 4-minute track and I'm only looking back thinking, what did they actually say? And so I try to sit down with my wife and watch TV, but I just see propaganda elevating the police in the simplest of sitcom banter, and tiny little altars full of offerings to corporate masters in every well-planned wide-pan shot of the name brand stocking up the pantry. Pull back, one long tracking shot out to the garage to the logo on the Camry. Nice tight shot of the Camry, close-up view of the Camry. Slow pan up on the Camry. Long slow zoom to the unmoving human who's up in the front with the tube pumping fumes to him straight from the back of the Camry. Ashamed he just could not provide for himself, let alone for his family. No, it's a blue pill mindset that spent 2020 making dance beats. I think I liked it better being blind when I couldn't read between the lines. Couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. And I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. Thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. Both bleed us so dry. Ignorance is bliss, which explains why a lot of us are so fucking happy. Quick to take the trip for all its trappings. Never one to ask what's up, what's going on, or God forbid what's happening. A lot of us would strap into the ride and spit right in the eye of the guy whose job it is to snap your fastenings. But maybe we're all born with that capacity. Maybe each of us comes standard with humor, compassion, malice, and audacity. Some of us are blind to the system, but some see it fine and say this is how it has to be. Some of us can stare wide-eyed at a nationwide human catastrophe and only offer platitudes and recipes. And fuck, I wish that I could tell myself nothing's worth obsessing past my everyday necessities. I wish that I could cry fake news over anything that threatened me, tune out our abuses and consume a little levity. I wish that I could offer up my son a smoother destiny. I wish I had some better lessons when I had to answer questions for the things I've been perpetually questioning. But I'm too busy looking at our leaders, wondering what I might be missing from their messaging. I'm trying to find the reasoning to let 500,000 people meet an early reckoning. And even though I know the truth, it's hard to swallow something that's so literally sickening. Hope is ever dwindling, COVID ever beckoning. Winter slows your breathing, but your pulse is ever quickening. No, even though I know the truth, it's hard to keep listening. I'm done with my epiphany, my innocence is blistering. I like to think I'd taste the earth before I'd ever kiss the ring. It's hard to speak the truth and harder still to keep listening. Sometimes I think I miss being blind when I couldn't read between the lines and couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. Thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. Both bleed us so dry.
Who are these people?
All right, so here's a song that may or may not be inciting acts. This is called Militia Intent.
I didn't do it, I swear.
Rhetorical acts, I swear. You can't keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your hands. So I play civil if you wouldn't listen to 50,000 dead. And now we know our mission, we form a militia, make Congress a prison. So I play civil when all these dead won't make you listen. What's more American than slaying your oppressors? What's more American than liberty or death first? See, I thought we were founded on abolishing the tyranny of those who would starve a village all to live empirically. And I regret that I have only one life to give for my cause now that I can see the cause so clearly. See, I want our leaders, regardless of party, to fear me, 'cause I will pick my targets and assassinate them lyrically. See, I will bring them out into the town square, hook them to the pillory, and leave them there. And Hillary, I'll see you there. Hillary, I'll see you there.
Oh, you can't keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your heads. No, I'd play civil if you wouldn't listen to 100,000 dead. And now we know our mission, we form a militia, make Congress a prison. So I play civil when all these dead won't make you listen. See, welcome to the fantasy of rhetoric. Welcome to the last of the free speech while we can get it. And I promise you can get it. All you corporate Democrats, second wave Confederates, GOP illusionists, and neo-Nazi bureaucrats. And Stephen fucking Miller, I will see you in the aftermath. When all the laws are dust and there's just moral justice after that. I would hunt you down through the wasteland if it comes to that. Just so I could rub you in the dirt like a cheap human Brillo pad. See, I can sleep fine when our beds are burning, Stephen, but I'll turn around and run into the blaze to get my pillow back. As long as I can lay my head down, I can live with that. I can deal with a little ash. See, I can feel like a little of the old me burn with the bad and the rest of my past. The old world where we all lived and we can't get back. The old world where you didn't give and you'd still get back. Where you could rake in 12 billion and give none back. Well, those days are behind us. The virus will kill all of that. Your wealth is behind us and kindness is meant for the past. Our leaders would bind us and starve us and call it a fast. A sacrament meant for their God that they garnish in cash. They feed it the poor by the hundreds, that's all that it asks. Its hunger is legion and people in need are all it will have. Our only chance is to starve it and watch as it turns on them. You can't keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your ends. Can't keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your hands.
And that is Militia Intent, folks.
Who are these people?
All right, we're gonna try Toast to Dissolve. Even if I get only a quarter of the way and then I shit the bed, it's better than nothing. It's your birthday, by God. Let's see if I remember how to even fucking play this.
Teneth or check your vittles and chiclet it or beer and skittles in the lap of the witness. No terra firma for the kindred or the kismet. I deal in copper, motherfucker, this is business. So raise the masses. I speak for Cassius, Lucasios, cast in plastic, caustic and spastic, dripping off the lips of the frantic, just to boil in the oiled Atlantic. Hereby all of the Bibles are fanfic, penned by the fallible and overly drastic. Born God be gone one-handed. I present the list of the standard demands of the tantric. Out of my hands to dissolve. Out of my hands, oh, to dissolve. Out of my hands to dissolve. Out of my hands.
shit. God damn it. While you would think that we would factor satisfactorily, tally it mathematically, you have to see nothing's really as it seems, stacked like cattle in the back of the gratis factory. And I implore you to laugh at me, but any cat with half the span to grasp the plan of God for man dissolved his dividends, packed his contraband, and ran. Cause we're approaching the days of Ayn Rand, of martial law, turning seed to sand. So you should keep your seeds at hand, because they'll reconstitute your retirement plan. Cause these days ahead are a retirement ban, where the limitless growth meets the hiring ban on your unemployed workers with a dime to their hand. For the love of money penny, this was damn sure planned. So let your banker tell you that the storms have passed, that it's safe to invest, that there's hope at last. But tear down your blinds and your blinders and your mask. Ask the folks squatting on your banker's grass if his spacious acres and his scraps for cats can support their family through a winter's wrath, can afford their children to attend a class, can it mend a gash or keep limbs attached? Can we, the torn union of broken glass, declare our souls hostage to thoughtless traps, submit that all odds are against our behalf, denounce the false gods of phones and apps, unlock the door, unscrew the latch, and witness the world that is not broadcast, the yearning and poor that the news has passed, who were shocked to conclude that the dudes who abuse the masses own the news and all of our asses, and they choose the worldview that passes, pacifies millions of otherwise activists, that fogs the glasses of would-be advocates of all of our unfed, unsaid inhabitants, until we're human and no longer averages, no longer bargaining chips, pawns, or savages, no longer statistics mentioned only in percentages, your grandiose Colombian superpower hemorrhages.
Out of my hands, all to dissolve. Out of my hands, all to dissolve. Out of my hands, all to dissolve. Out of my hands.
I'm gonna victory lap around my fucking neighborhood right now. Oh
Bro,
my
that
God.
was touch and go for a second, but he pulled it off.
It was.
He pulled it off.
It's like once it starts, as long as I don't stop, then I'm good. So that song is 10 years old, 11 years old.
Wow.
That I wrote. Oh God, was I living in the Keys when I wrote that? And that was the one that I've talked about when people ask, when did you first do political music? That was a piece I used to pull out at gigs when I was playing gigs, 2 or 3 a day in the Keys. Once it was kind of quieting down and you can kind of play whatever you want to play, I'd pull that song out, and that someone would always have to come up and be like, man, great set, but you can't do that political shit. That song, you shouldn't be doing shit like that. And I would always be like, man, fuck you. Why shouldn't I? All the more reason I should do songs like that. And it's crazy because it sounds like something I could have written this week lyrically, and man, if you could have gone back to 2012, Jesse, and showed him a glimpse of the world 10 years later.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know if he would have believed it.
Who are these people?
Whenever you're ready. This is February Field.
Let's do it.
Black smoke rises in a February field, looms on the horizon like it's Bethlehem steel. The Senate holds a hearing. They're not hearing your appeal. But Alan Shaw is counting thralls and oozing class appeal. He says, don't pick your blisters, it's just best to let 'em peel, as he has his culpability repealed. You see, I felt the lightning, waited on the thunder, never heard the peal. Turns out it was buried under fog that's dense enough to feel. A fog that lowers down like Alan's crown when he secretes his spiel. When he donates city council each a couple thou to stop their squeals. Well, I'm for having Mr. Shaw divided like the 7 seals, scattered round the globe and painstakingly concealed. He and every other walking clod of greed congealed, and the corporate machinery of which he is but a wheel. Strip it down to parts and keep it safely under heel, otherwise will never heal. Otherwise, we forfeit every blossom, for its toxins will not yield. Otherwise, we're helpless watching. All we'll hear is muffled sobbing overlaid across the gentle whir of the projector reel. Were I any saner by their standards, I'd be glad to hang the banners. As it stands, I spurn the flag and shun the standard. I defiantly reject the real. I reject the will of federal terrorists who throw the word democracy around like it's the holiest protector's shield. Standing quietly while we allow society to wrap itself in piety when half cannot afford a meal. We are minnows wielding class action lawsuits, searching for some justice in the court of eels. Heard the portcullis lock, heard the jury lick its chops, heard the suit was dropped, heard the minnows reached a deal. They're happy ever after in a February field. Details of the settlement were not revealed. Now, if you ask Alan Shaw, that's a comeback story, where he rises from the ashes in the afterbirth of corporate glory, and one in which the residents of Palestine who leave are coming back to see the rainbow sheen that sits atop the creek disguised as something gory. Dead fish in the riverbed like boulders in a quarry. Dead deer in the forest glen, but they are far from Norfolk's quarry. We are what they're seeking to reduce, all too eager to reuse and then recycle once we're 40. We supply a labor force that law forbids aborting. And that's if all should go according. So if you hold a politician's hand, it's fascism you're courting. And that's the fight that gets me out of bed to keep recording. That's the fight that opens up my eyes every morning to chloride on the sunrise and CNN reporting that it's safe to drink the water if you don't know what's been forming. That it's best to trust the experts who ignore the blatant warnings. To disregard the evidence you're currently absorbing. Norfolk's awfully sorry, and their profits fucking soaring. It is silent in a field on a February morning, and that's where we begin our story.
Who are these people?
All right,
I've done a really good job about not letting these pizza wars infiltrate our
let's get
chat.
to Nina Turner and let's not talk about pizza. Okay, let's talk about concrete pools.
I saw Nina Turner with a roller dipped in ocean blue, spreading lifelike water in a painted pool. She smoothed the surface out and made a little wave or two, a few convincing ripples and reflections ripe for hazing you and every other vacant fool who saw her build a cage for you and still return to ah and ooh and walk right past the toxic plume to witness Nina's masterpiece, her grand charade, her painted pool, the hints of light that trick your eyes, the trap inside the lapis jewel. The half-imagined voice that tries to lavish you with platitudes and lure you in those baited waters, hook and sinker, absolute. I know you've thought about just diving in it, haven't you? Now that Nina's got you feeling like you're splatterproof, progressivism ain't a pipeline to the blue side, baby, it's a waiting room. And it leads you to a pool with zero waiting room. And every lemming diving in that painted pool today will not be swayed and can't be saved. I know, I tried to save a few, but I ultimately watched them eat the pavement. Those who get less leisure time than peasants in the Middle Ages. Those for whom a dozen fucking eggs are worth an hour of their wages. Heaven's not a place on earth, and hell is what you make it. And look at us, we made it. America, degraded, diving in a painted fake oasis on the basis of a break in their enslavement. Lined up at the diving board, excited and impatient, pointing fingers halfway round the world to cry invasion. And turning backs on human rights at home, because the location doesn't fit with our narration. You'll never spot the sanctions if you still deny the occupations. You see, the end came and went. I guess you missed the high note. Like we're gonna miss the last white rhino. The harbinger of end times was floating in the sky, but nobody saw the message past the clouds above Ohio. Where BlackRock is demonstrating sell high, buy low. A toxic mass eviction in the heartland, suddenly your city spans a 15-minute biodome. Cops on every corner, every blink of yours reported, every word that's out of order is summarily recorded. When information's valuable, your privacy's as malleable as safety in a school or your right to an abortion. But we know the face of every thief who came to take our portions, who auctioned off our pensions, built 100 bloody warships. And I bet you didn't know you were a donor for it. I bet you didn't know we still do no-knock warrants. Yeah, who could have guessed that if unnecessary force was left to officer discretion, the result is something morbid and inhuman and abhorrent, all of which is in your feed and whirling in the torrent, all of which is coursing through the current. All our fate, like Julian's, is hinging on American assurance, which history has proved to be as honest as me telling you it's raining while I'm drenching you with urine. Then telling you the urine's really liquid fucking mustard gas. Then ditch it in the pasture land like best of luck and light the match. Then telling you to disregard that pestilence that billows past. And all from in the comforts of my safety hatch. Down in the bunker, there's a massive empty pool that Nina Turner patiently is painting ocean blue. Its depth is deathly shallow, but deception swears it true. And she draws the drooling willing 2 by 2.
Who are these people?
And I remember this time to not have need to edit for language. We're going G-rated here, folks. So the Butter Battle book. On the last day of summer, 10 hours before fall, my grandfather took me out to the wall. For a while he stood silent. Then finally he said, with a very sad shake of his very old head, as you know, on this side of the wall, we are Ukes. On the far other side of the wall live the Zooks. Then my grandfather said, it's high time that you knew of the terribly horrible thing that Zooks do. In every Zook house and in every Zook town, every Zook eats his bread with the butter side down. But we Ukes, as you know, when we breakfast or sup, spread our bread, Grandpa said, with the butter side up. That's the right, honest way. Grandpa gritted his teeth, so you can't trust a Zook who spreads bread underneath. Every Zook must be watched. He has kinks in his soul. That's why, as a youth, I made watching my goal, watching Zooks for the Zook-watching Border Patrol. In those days, of course, the wall wasn't so high. You could look any Zook square. Let me get a better angle for you here. Hang on. I'm trying to face you front on.
I think we're actually pretty good, but we can't see the words. We can see the pictures.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, wow. You sound a
In
lot
those
better.
days, of course, the wall wasn't so high, and I could look any Zook square in the eye. If he dared to come close, I could give him a twitch with my tough-tufted, prickly snickberry switch. For a while, that worked fine. All the Zooks stayed away, and our country was safe. Then one terrible day, a very rude Zook by the name of Van Itch snuck up and slingshotted my snickberry switch. With my broken off switch, with my head hung in shame, to the chief Ukaroo in great sorrow I came. But our leader just smiled. He said, you're not to blame, and those Zooks will be sorry they started this game. We'll dress you right up in a fancier suit, and we'll give you a fancier slingshot to boot. And he ordered the boys in the back room to figure how to build me some sort of a triple sling jigger. With the triple sling jigger, I felt much bigger. I marched to the wall with great vim and great vigor, right up to Van Itch with my hand on the trigger. I'll have no more nonsense, I said with a frown, from Zooks who eat bread with the butter side down. Van Itch looked quite sickly. He ran off quite quickly. I'm unhappy to say he came back the next day in a spiffy new suit with a big new machine, and he snarled as he said, looking frightfully mean, you may fling those hard rocks with your triple sling jigger, but I also now have my hand on a trigger. My wonderful weapon, the jigger rock snatch'em, will fling 'em right back just as quick as you catch 'em. We'll have no more nonsense, we'll take no more gup from you ukes who eat bread with the butter side up. I have failed, sir, I said as I made my report to the chief Ukaroo in the headquarters fort. He just laughed. You've done nothing at all of the sort. Our slingshots have failed. That was old-fashioned stuff. Slingshots, dear boy, are not modern enough. All we need is some newfangled kind of a gun. My boys in the back room have already begun to think up a walloping whiz-zinger one. My bright boys are thinking they're on the right track. They'll think one up quick, and we'll send you right back. Well, they thought up a great one. They certainly did. They thought up a gun called the Kickapoo Kid, which they loaded with powerful Pooadoo powder and, God, I can hardly see, and ants' eggs and bees' legs and deep-fried clam chowder. And they carefully trained a real smart dog named Daniel to serve as our country's first gun-toting spaniel. Then Daniel, the Kickapoo Spaniel, and I marched back toward the wall with our heads held up high while everyone cheered and their cheers filled the sky. Fight, fight for butter side up, do or die. Well, we didn't do, and we didn't quite die, but we sure did get worsted, poor Daniel and I. Vanitch was there too, and he said, the old pig, the boys in my back room invented this rig called the 8-nozzled elephant-toted boom blitz. It shoots high explosive sour cherry stone pits and will put your dumb Kickapoo kid on the fritz. Poor Daniel and I were scared out of our wits. Once more, by Vanitch, I was bested and beat. Once again I limped home from the wall in defeat. I dragged and I sagged, and my spirits were low as I thought that they ever could go, when I heard a boom-ba and a diddle-de-dill, and our butter-up band marched up over the hill. The chief Ukaroo had sent them to meet me, along with the right side up song girls to greet me. They sang, "Oh, be faithful, believe in thy butter," and they lifted my spirits right out of the gutter. My boy, smiled the chief Ukaroo, we've just voted and made you a general. You've been promoted. Your pretty new uniform's ready. Get in it. The big war is coming. You're gonna win it. And what's more, this time you are certain. You're going to begin it. Sorry. And what's more, this time you are certain to win it. My boys in the back room have finally found how. Just wait till you see what they've puttered up now. In their great new machine, you'll fly over that wall and clobber those butter-down zooks, one and all. Those boys in the back room sure knew how to putter. They made me a thing called the Utterly Sputter, and I jumped aboard with my heart all aflutter and steered toward the land of the upside-down butter. This machine was so modern, so frightfully new, no one knew quite exactly just what it would do. Oh, but it had several faucets that sprinkled blue goo, which somehow would sprinkle the zooks as I flew and gum up the upside-down butter they chew. That's hidden in the bushes. I was racing pell-mell when I heard a voice yell, "If you sprinkle us zooks, you'll get sprinkled as well." Vanitch had a sputter exactly like mine, and he yelled, "My blue gooer is working just fine, and I'm here to say that if ukes can goo zooks, you'd better forget it, 'cause zooks can goo ukes." I flew right back home, and as you may have guessed, I was downright despondent, disturbed, and depressed. And I saw just as soon as I stepped back on land, so were all of the girls of the Butter-Up Band. The chief drum majorette, Ms. Yuki Ann Sue, said that was a pretty sour flight that you flew, and the chief Ukaroo, he's been looking for you. Well, I raced to his office. The place was a sight. "Have no fear," said the chief. "Everything is all right. My bright backroom boys have been brighter than brighter. They've thought up a gadget that's newer than new, and it's filled with mysterious moo-lack-a-moo and can blow all those zooks clear to Salamagoo. They've invented the Bitsy Big Boy Boomeroo. You just run to that wall like a nice little man, Drop this bomb on the Zooks just as fast as you can. I've ordered all Ukes to stay safe underground while the bitsy big boy Boomeroo is around. As I raced for that wall, with the bomb in my hand, I noticed that every last Uke in our land was obeying our Chief Ukaroo's grim command. They were all bravely marching with banners aflutter down a hole for their country and right side up butter. That's when Grandfather found me. He grabbed me. He said, "You should be down that hole, and you're up here instead. But perhaps this is all for the better somehow. You will see me make history right here and right now." Grandpa leapt up that wall with a lopulous leap. And he cleared his hoarse throat with a bopulous beep, and he screamed, "Here's the end of that terrible town full of Zooks who eat bread with the butter side down." And at that very moment, I'm sorry, it's so hard for me to see anything on the green text reading off of my own screen. It is bananas. And at that very instant, we heard a clop, clop of feet on the wall, and old Van Itch clopped up. The boys in his back room had made him one too. In his fist was another big boy Boomeroo. "I'll blow you," he yelled, "into pork and wee beans. I'll butter side up you to small smithereens." "Grandpa," I shouted, "be careful. Oh, gee, who's gonna drop it? Will you or will he?" "Be patient," said Grandpa. "We'll see. We will see." And that's the Butter Battle book by Dr. Seuss.
Who's
So as a
gonna
kid,
drop
I was
it?
like,
Who's gonna drop it?
Excuse me? I was like, yeah, exactly. And same, my kid was like, wait.
Wait, wait a minute. But can you go back to that last page? Because it's kind of funny. You know, there's a lot of course, war stuff. And was that literally a red and a blue guy fighting on top of a wall?
Orange. To be fair,
Okay.
they have the other guy's orange, but
okay.
I mean, his name is Van Itch, so they give it a kind of a,
A Dutch. Yeah. Well, the Dutch soccer team wears orange and black.
Who are these people?
So this is a short story in the back of Yertle the Turtle called The Big Brag. Classic Seuss deep cuts going on here. Let me get a good angle where I can see this and you can see it. I wish this would let me make myself.
The mobile zoomed in. Just worry about the other side. But here, let me go back to Just Jesse so you can see that. Take me away in the chat. There you go.
Here we go. The rabbit felt mighty important that day. On top of the hill, in the sun where he lay, he felt so important up there on that hill that he started in bragging, as animals will, and he boasted out loud as he threw out his chest, "Of all of the beasts in the world, I'm the best. On land and on sea, even up in the sky, no animal lives who is better than I." "What's that?" growled a voice that was terribly gruff. "Now why do you say such ridiculous stuff?" The rabbit looked down and he saw a big bear. "I'm the best of the beasts," said the bear, "and so there." I haven't, Ed. I've actually never read that one. "You are not," snapped the rabbit. "I'm better than you." "Pooh," the bear snorted. "Again I say pooh. You talk mighty big, Mr. Rabbit, that's true, but how can you prove it? Just what can you do?" Thought the rabbit. "Now what can I do?" He thought and he thought. Then he finally said, "Mr. Bear, do you see these two ears on my head? My ears are so keen and so sharp and so fine, no ears in the world can hear further than mine." The bear grunted. He looked at each ear. You say they are good, said the bear with a sneer, but how do I know just how far they can hear? I'll prove, said the rabbit, my ears are the best. You just sit there and watch me. I'll prove it by test. Then he stiffened his ears till they both stood up high, and he poised them straight up at the blue of the sky. He stretched his ears open as wide as he could. Shh, I'm listening, he said as he stood. He listened so hard that he started to sweat, and the fur on his ears and his forehead got wet. For 7 long minutes he stood, then he stirred, and he said to the bear, Do you know what I heard? Do you see that far mountain? It's 90 miles off. There's a fly on that mountain. I just heard him cough. Now, the cough of a fly, sir, is quite hard to hear when he's 90 miles off, but I heard it quite clear. So you see, bragged the rabbit, it's perfectly true that my ears are the best, so I'm better than you. The bear, for a moment, just sulked as he sat, for he knew that his ears couldn't hear things like that. This rabbit, he thought, made a fool out of me. Now I've got to prove that I'm better than he. So he said to the rabbit, You hear pretty well. You can hear 90 miles, but how far can you smell? I'm the greatest of smellers, he bragged. See my nose. This nose on my face is the finest that grows. My nose can smell anything, both far and near. With my nose, I can smell twice as far as you hear. You can't, snapped the rabbit. I can, growled the bear. And he stuck his big nose way up high in the air. He wiggled that nose, and he sniffed, and he snuffed. He waggled that nose, and he whiffed, and he wuffed. For more than 10 minutes, he snaffed and he snuffed. Then he said to the rabbit, I've smelled far enough. All right, said the rabbit. Come on now and tell. Exactly how far is the smell that you smell? Oh, I'm smelling a very far smell, said the bear. Away past that fly on the mountain out there. I'm smelling past many great mountains beyond, 600 miles more, to the edge of a pond. And way, way out there, by the pond you can't see, is a very small farm. On the farm is a tree. On the tree is a branch. On the branch is a nest, a very small nest where 2 tiny eggs rest, 2 hummingbird eggs, only half an inch long. But my nose, said the bear, is so wonderfully strong. My nose is so good that I smelled without fail that the egg on the left is a little bit stale. And that is a thing that no rabbit can do. So you see, the bear boasted, I'm better than you. My smeller's so keen that it just can't be beat. What's that? Called a voice from way down by his feet. The bear and the rabbit looked down at the sound, and they saw an old worm crawling out of the ground. Now, boys, said the worm, you've been bragging a lot. You both think you're great, but I think you are not. You're not half as good as a fellow like me. You hear and you smell, but how far can you see? Now I'm here to prove to you big boasting guys that your nose and your ears aren't as good as my eyes. And the little old worm cocked his head to one side, and he opened his eyes, and he opened them wide. And they looked far away with a strange sort of stare, as if they were burning 2 holes in the air. The eyes of that worm almost popped from his head. He stared half an hour till his eyelids got red. That's enough, growled the bear. Tell the rabbit and me, how far did you look? And just what did you see? Well, boys, the worm answered, that look that I took was a look that looked farther than you'll ever look. I looked across the ocean, way out to Japan, for I can see farther than anyone can. There's no one on earth who has eyesight that's finer. I looked past Japan, then I looked across China. I looked across Egypt, then I took a quick glance across the 2 countries of Holland and France. Then I looked across England and also Brazil, but I didn't stop there. I looked much farther still. And I kept right on looking and looking until I'd looked around the world and right back to this hill. And I saw on this hill, since my eyesight's so keen, the 2 biggest fools that have ever been seen. And the fools that I saw were none other than you.
who seem to have nothing else better to do than to sit here and argue who's better than who. Then the little old worm gave his head a small jerk, and he dived in his hole, and he went back to work.
Don't be rude.
That's the big brag.
The whole time I was thinking Trump.
Don't be rude.
Don't be rude.
Who are these people?
So yeah, Town Hall. That was the first one, man. That was the song. I put that up, and I all of a sudden was like, let's see what people think of this. Let's see if people get on board for, you know, this was a 7 minute political song, and people did. And that, all of a sudden, I had Twitter friends that thought the way I did and like agreed with me on stuff, and it was just the most reassuring. Like, okay, well, what do I want to do next? And then song after song started happening, and here we are. Yeah, so this is what kicked off. And it's funny now because I've mentioned it was a very short pipeline from, hey, they're going to screw over Bernie Sanders, we need to write in Bernie, to Shepherd of Hopes. It was only a couple of years and you know, a handful of records. But that was me realizing, okay, they're going to push Joe Biden on us. That's what we're going to be force fed. And at the time, I was prepared to write in Bernie. I ended up voting third party because once Bernie so quickly caved and all the my friend Joe shit, I couldn't stomach it anymore.
Yep.
But
I voted for Howie, and I didn't want to, but he was the most qualified third party candidate actually that was on a line on the ballot that I didn't have to write in. So I voted green, you know, and I don't regret it. I got to actually meet Howie afterwards, which was cool, but Howie's a neolib effectively. He's just a kinder, gentler neolib. That's all.
Yep. Very true. All right. Here's to the neolibs. This is Town Hall.
Woo.
In these days of global disaster, all the money disappears with the fame. I'll say what I want, then burn my masters. And I suggest you do the same.
Hear my words, but don't breathe the air. You and I needn't speak to share. I'm so sick of the waiting now. I feel sick, so I'm laying down. Hear my words, but don't breathe the air. You and I needn't speak to share. I feel sick, so I'm laying down. I'm so sick of the waiting now. Laying down.
Alright, I won't name names, so we won't call legal. We'll call him Bo Jiden. He killed Glass-Steagall. He's on the trail, off the rails, profits over people, but I won't call him a Nazi because I haven't seen his eagle. But I have seen his equal, and he just left the White House. I've seen his equal, and she lost the fight twice now. I've seen the evil of a man who'd shake the hands of workers, knowing they've been slaving for a feeble wage and little purpose, all to keep afloat his bloated lifestyle. All to keep us focused on our phones in the meanwhile. Now if I'm a broken record, this has been a time trial, but I would not go quietly into the future I'm supposed to hand to my child. I will not politely hold my tongue when I see voters in the web of suppression. So I'm about to burn the list of things we shouldn't mention. Alzheimer's causes bouts of both confusion and aggression. It causes sentences that fall apart and paper-thin patience. Well, I have not spent the past 4 years practicing critiques only to need them for the next administration. And part of me would love to vote for Trump to really stuff you Biden diatribe junkies who would tie us to a chair to watch him push out Bernie Sanders. Say he needs to just accept a loss, have your little celebration. Buddy, I don't know about you, but I have too much love for this misguided nation. I can't take another president who treats the world like he's a wealthy tourist, just too good to talk to all us Haitians. My only choice should not have to be trading one president who chews at the Achilles heel of race relation, who plays up all our prejudices, fears, and darkest motivations, for one who hands us over to the corporations like we've all been sex trafficked. And I wish that was exaggeration, but it's part nightmare, part fascination. It's mostly fascists saying we're a cushion generation, while they got the funding made to lift you out your station, while you miss your shift at your third job because you can't afford your medication. Now the pain of your mobility is tied into the need to keep afloat and keep your family just this side of devastation. And here's the catch to immunization. You might get to have a say in what they give your baby, but in 20 years your baby better be prepared to pay right through the nose to be inoculated. So don't you be surprised when all your insulin is confiscated, because someone found a buyer who's prepared to hike the price up even higher. And if you land in a coma just as well, you're out the conversation. You're not around to stage a demonstration. You're not around to protest human rights being eliminated. You're not around to protest all these voters being silenced and intimidated. Maybe you can hear it in my intonation, that one man's revolution is another's renovation. One hand better wash the other or it's amputated. God, I hate to be so black and white, but Trey has led us straight into the mist and now the lamp is faded. And I don't think that we are very long before the night is falling, quicker than anticipated. Quicker than the stocks crashed, quicker than your IRA was withered and emaciated. So why obey the men who solved a crisis that they orchestrated? Why are we so pleased to see a corpse get up and speak that we ignored the way the corpse debated? That he spoke in fragmented misinformation, that he tried to make an honest man's mistake out of a fabrication, or that all the major networks eat it up and tolerate it. So whose side are they on if they can point it out in Trump but act like they don't see it in the man they want to call our savior? Who keeps paying you to do such sick, dishonest labor? Oh shit, we do? No shit, me too. Everything you buy will find a way to own or eat you. Companies that feed you fund agendas to defeat you. Strip your wits away, rip your wick away. Ultimately put you in a place to have to loot to feed your kid today, then detain and beat you. Oh, it's such an obvious process not see-through. At least not without a UV light. This year we'll purge our liberties with zero end in sight. So if you can't cast a vote that gives you hope about our plight, if you pick up the pen but in your heart it isn't right, think about the millions going hungry every night. And have the guts to write in Bernie, or have the guts to fight.
Hear my words, but don't breathe the air. You and I needn't speak to share. I'm so sick of the waiting now. I feel sick, so I'm laying down. Hear my words, but don't breathe the air. You and I needn't speak to share. I'm so sick of the waiting now. I feel sick, so I'm laying down. Laying down, laying down.
Hear my words, there's no time to spare. We killed democracy, it's rotting in the square, and with its last breath it cursed the very air with the toxic miasma of class warfare. Convulsions were brief, it seized for a minute, then it ceased to fidget. It was just deep sleep in a citywide gibbet. A lot of sweet nothings like the rations we were given. A film crew followed them into the city limits to document the distribution. A little piece of human interest in the mass confusion. Some nice shots of a clean white van, neighbors helping neighbors with their clean white hands. Never mind the boxes being empty like the cans. Never mind a photo op that didn't feed a single man. And this is nothing you could blame on one single man or his supporting an immoral horde of sycophants. We set the stage, we wrote the play, we gave the man a script, we highlighted every line he had to say. We're only in this boat because we chose to sail away. We never poured out the decay, we let it spread. And then we watched the nation warp into the noxious dictatorship it is today. We made conditions perfect. It's almost like we want it this way.
No, hear my words, but don't breathe the air. You and I needn't speak to share. I'm so sick of the waiting now. I feel sick, so I'm laying down. Hear my words, but don't breathe the air. You and I needn't speak to share. I'm so sick of the waiting now. I feel sick, so I'm laying down. Laying down.
And that's Town Hall.
Who are these people?
All right. The Grift. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
La da 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 da
Last stand, I came to deliver. Been called a Clinton operative, a Russian, and a grifter. By libs awash in student debt and proud to be an intern. Sucking up to pigs who'll get a tax cut in the midterms. You cut the ties but never heal the wrist burns. Capitalist shackles wrap and penetrate like ringworms around the necks of those whose deaths will not affect the king's purse or the coffers of the company the king serves, who manufacture mandated tinctures. Their safety data hanging from a fixture, half a mile skyward, dangling from the rafters. My grift is sobbing till I'm cackling with laughter. I guess I would have made a decent actor. I'd be great at crying on command until they cut plus 40 minutes after. When the director waves a hand, it ain't a rap, it's now a legal matter. Sugar, my grift is weeping on the mic until I'm hacking up airstrike verses like it's bombs away and batter up. Swinging on these bigots, they keep killing us to fatten up. Kill the switch, eat the rich, I think they're finally fat enough. Just grab your knife and fork, the world is yours, just say you had enough. And if you're humpy, you can go ahead and laugh it up. And tell me how the most important vote I'll ever cast is like the choosing of a bus, in that it might not take you anywhere you want, but no one can deny the fact the bus is now no longer where it was, and that's the kind of progress I should celebrate and trust. Spoken like a kid who never took a bus. Spoken like some piece of shit that used some cash to mask their stink and truly thinks they're one of us. Spoken like a terminally unserious person who equates our cries for rights to mixed up orders from a server. It paints a privileged picture of what you would label urgent if the worst thing you've experienced in life has been the time your waiter accidentally brought a tray of gold flake scallop when you clearly ordered gold flaked urchin. And now you're storming out the restaurant and hopping in your Tesla. You got 80 pounds of Tony Fauci merchant.
Rewind to change won't make you wait such a long line. Life's not just a way to waste your free time. Air that's fit to breathe is not a free ride. Free ride. Rewind to change won't make you wait in such a long line. Life's not just a way to waste your free time. Air that's fit to breathe is not a free ride. Free ride.
No, it's best to place your bets on weaponizing the identity of every limp progressive claiming grassroots integrity. Policy's a slippery slope for all of its complexity, so flex your brave resistance with this Ilhan Omar NFT. It's numbered 1 of 723, and each depicts her valiantly championing a bill before she lays it at a donor's feet. And she can throw her hands up in the air with AOC and say, if only Nina Turner could have voted present too, that's why we need another seat. We need some more progressives we elect to only tweet, who live to serve Humana, and their label of elective slapped on every patient's gravest needs. And every station plays the theme that medical professionals agree on the effectiveness and safety of injections authorized for this emergency. And in purely unrelated news, the profits of the ones who manufacture vaccines just increased by nearly 36 billion with a fucking B. Christ, sometimes it feels like we're the only ones that see. Sometimes it feels like all of us are lost at sea. And every time we think we see an island on the tip of the horizon, it turns out to be another measure making sure we're kept in the watchful eye of murderous authority. So I guess my grift is crying for the future they denied us, where the people who would buy us are a mockable minority. And we are more than genomes under warranty. We are more than serfs in constant quarantine. If I had a single breath left, I'd let the chorus scream that I denounce our leaders claiming none for all and more for me. None for all and more for me. None for all and more for me. Rewind to a chance will make you wait such a long line. Life's not just a way to waste your free time. Air that's fit to breathe is not a free ride. Free ride. Oh, rewind to a chance will make you wait such a long line. Life's not just a way to waste your free time. Air that's fit to breathe is not a free ride. Free ride. Oh, and that's the grift, folks.
Who are these people?
You know, this was obviously I'd written a couple pieces that talked about Tara and her coming forward, and that's what kind of started us talking on Twitter. And it wasn't until a good bit later that I was writing this piece, and I messaged her and I was like, "Hey," I said, "I'm writing a piece about you right now, and then once it's finished, I'd like to just run it by you before I publish it, obviously." And I sent it to her, and she was like, "Don't change a thing," you know. And before I did, it just really struck me like what a unique position I'd found myself in already in the first, that was, year and a half of doing political music and being involved here, that I was able to like reach out to her personally and get her approval on something. I really have in these last 3 years since I put out The Virus, I have made some of the most meaningful friendships and connections that I'll ever have. And I really like you and Tara and Greg and Reef and Charlie. There's just so many more than I can list, but you guys just mean the world to me. And so Tara, this is for you. This is Read Between the Lines. Legend says that Hercules swept Cerberus right off his feet and effortlessly set him down as softly as a songbird. Atlas kept the world upon his back, and every day he wondered whether he could stand it any longer. And Tara Reid came out to say the man they tried to label the Messiah of morality was really just another rapist. And I don't intend to hesitate when asked who was the stronger. Tara, like Assange, knew that carrying the truth would be the hardest labor. Tara knew that her assailant wasn't going to make us any safer. Knew he's just the type of man to hand a decent foreign leader U.S. printed walking papers. And knew he'd be relentless and aggressive in the war he'd wage upon her very character, that his attempts to weaken and degrade and embarrass her would be her only compensation. But I strongly doubt that anyone could ever have foreseen the stream of hate that came from quote-unquote progressives and the self-styled titans of survivor advocation. So if you really think there's something to be gained out of sharing that pain with the world, then you're sorely mistaken. The Biden team just drug their feet addressing Tara's allegations until they had a decent list of smears, and then they aired them out on every station. And it turns out no one wants to hear the truth of who they praised as being worthy of such bloated liberal celebration. No one wants to really know the person they've so valiantly defended, even when it meant they had to gloat and shit all over someone braver than they'd be if given the occasion. Now cue the faceless comment squad invasion. Cue the people crawling out the woodwork to come analyze the way you wore your hair and what you wear, like your appearance waives your rights, or that somehow you're the reason for your situation. Somehow they've decided you should bear responsibility for what such monstrous men insist on doing. Somehow they're deluded by the empty, hypocritical, and useless fucking platitudes that bastard keeps on spewing. And I think it's very telling that the best of your excuses when you try to come and justify our president's abuses is a hearty "but Trump." In which case, I'll remind you that you never saw the news attempt to sell you Donald Trump like he was morally upstanding or a decent human. But when Joe says something bigoted or ogles someone's little kid, CNN says, "Isn't this refreshing? Biden's like a mix of JFK and FDR with all the finer parts of Harry Truman." And Christ, I know they don't think we're the brightest, but at least pretend we've got a couple lumens. Ask yourself if you have ever questioned what they fed you, or do you just shut your eyes and then consume it? Now ask yourself if you ate every one of Biden's lies under the guise of harm reduction and the promise of a slight improvement. And now imagine long ago that Biden chose to show you who he really was by traumatizing you for his amusement. Now imagine that you watched him touch a Bible with those filthy hands and then assume the power of the highest seat in all the land, knowing your attacker wields a global coalition born of 3-letter agencies who will make a life's mission out of trying to discredit you through lies, damned lies, and collusion. Big tech is never gonna separate from our surveillance state. Fuck's sakes, they're just a breath away from total fusion. So there will come a time where even if you see the light, your voice will never reach the sky through all the bots and all the noise pollution. So trust us when we tell you that the masking of abuses is perhaps this country's oldest institution. And I know nothing nobler than facing it in honor of the truth when you know damn well that those in power have been neutralizing truth since there was wet ink on the Constitution. So know that Tara's truth is something crucial to the movement. And if you see yourself a partner to the revolution, help this country see through all the baseless propaganda, through the crux of Joe's illusions, and recognize that Tara Reid gave everything she had so she could tell us what the truth is. Recognize the decent thing to do when someone bares their soul and shows their bruises. It's not to ask for context or to offer up your own solutions. Your job is just to listen with an honest mind and put yourself on Tara's side a moment so you understand the path she chooses. That there is no instant fame worth the dragging of your name. And if that's what you think, then you've a lot to learn about the kind of facts the mob can handle and the kind that it refuses. You've a lot to learn about the news and all its many uses. I guess you've yet to learn the truth the news will serve is fruit from which they've squeezed out all the juices, and we all eat the husks and just pretend it's full of nutrients and isn't really useless. But the jaws of our ability to yield accountability are absolutely toothless. So don't you kid yourself that any lips are being loosened. They won't ever tell us where the bodies are or show us where the proof is. It's on you to recognize the lechery our president so regularly oozes. It's on you to muster up some honesty and ask yourself how Biden won your trust, but it's America that loses. Open up your eyes and learn to recognize the bruises. Open up your eyes and learn to recognize the bruises. Let's read between the lines.
Oh, you son of a bitch. No, the Taurus.
Don't you start, because I'm going to start.
You killed
Don't you
me.
start.
So
Don't
no, the
you
Taurus truth is something crucial to the movement, and that was it. I'm gone. That's it. You killed me. You killed me. You son of a bitch.